The garage was always loud, filled with the sound of metal tools clanging, air compressors hissing, and old rock music playing from a dusty speaker in the corner. The floor was stained with oil, and the air smelled like gasoline and sweat. Most of the guys who worked there were older, rough around the edges, and quick to joke or curse. They leaned on toolboxes with coffee mugs in hand, talked about weekend plans, and cracked jokes that often crossed the line. Malik, the youngest on the crew, didn't laugh much. He stayed focused, head down, always moving, wiping grease from his hands, tightening bolts, and doing twice the work without half the respect. To the others, he was the go-to for grabbing tools or cleaning up spills, not because he was new, but because they thought they could get away with it. His manager only noticed him when something went wrong, calling him kid in front of customers like it was his name. What they didn't see was everything Malik carried. After his shift, he took 2 buses home to a small apartment where his mom worked night shifts at the hospital. Every dollar mattered. He didn't have the luxury of quitting or taking breaks. And even though he dreamed of owning his own shop one day, here, inside this garage with its unwritten rules, he was stuck at the bottom, not because he couldn't rise, but because no one wanted him to. It was just past 10 in the morning when the garage door creaked open again, barely heard over the sound of an impact wrench buzzing in the back. Most of the crew didn't even look up, too busy joking around or scrolling through their phones. But Malik saw him. A tall man in a worn leather jacket stepped inside, his boots heavy, his eyes darting across the room like he was searching for someone. His face was red, not from anger, but something else, panic maybe. Tattoos curled up his neck, and the patch on his back read Hell's Angels in bold letters. Right away, people started whispering. A man near the front actually leaned over to his wife and muttered something about feeling unsafe. The biker walked to the counter, his voice shaky as he explained that his daughter had been in an accident, that he needed help, fast. But the receptionist didn't even look at him, just told him to sit and wait like everyone else. Behind him, someone chuckled and said he should have taken an Uber. Another guy stood up and walked out completely. The biker looked around, realizing nobody was going to help him. Not because they couldn't, but because they didn't want to. Judged by the jacket on his back and the tattoos on his arms, he was already seen as trouble. He turned toward the door, ready to leave, fishing in his pocket for his phone when a voice stopped him. It was Malik, standing near his workbench, holding a rag in one hand. "Hey," he said, "what kind of bike you got?" The biker paused, surprised that someone had actually spoken to him like a person. "Yamaha Cruiser," he said, breathing hard. "Ignition's off. Won't crank. I parked it right out front." Malik gave a small nod, wiped his hands again, and walked toward the door. "Mind if I take a look?" he asked. He didn't wait for an answer, just moved like it was any other job. The man followed, still trying to catch his breath. Malik crouched beside the bike, eyes scanning it quickly, hands moving without hesitation. "You look rough, man," he said quietly, handing over a half-empty water bottle. The biker took it with a shaky thanks, then added, "My kid, she fell. Internal bleeding, they think. Hospitals clear across town." Malik didn't say much. He just got to work. Behind them, a few of the other mechanics watched from inside. One of them made a loud comment, something about Malik playing hero. Another laughed. Malik didn't respond. His focus stayed on the engine, fingers moving like he'd done this 100 times. He wasn't doing it for praise. He wasn't doing it for attention. He was doing it because the man in front of him looked desperate and because Malik knew exactly how it felt to be looked at like you don't belong, even when you're just asking for help. The sound of heavy footsteps broke the silence. It was Reynolds, the shop manager. Broad shoulders, shaved head, always scowling like someone had just scratched his car. He took one look at the scene. Malik crouched over the bike, the biker standing nearby, and his face twisted with anger. "What the hell is this?" he barked. Malik stood up slowly, wiping his hands again. "Just helping him out," he said. "Quick fix." Reynolds didn't care. "Did anyone tell you to touch that bike?" he snapped, stepping closer. "You know the rules, no work without a ticket." "He's not a customer." The biker tried to explain, said he'd pay, said he wasn't asking for anything free. Reynolds shut him down, not even looking at him. "We don't do favors for people who walk in here looking like trouble," he said. That word, trouble, hit Malik hard. He'd heard it before, in different ways. He looked at Reynolds, then at the others in the shop, all of them pretending not to see what was happening. "He's just trying to get to his daughter," Malik said quietly. "If this was anyone else, you'd have helped already." But Reynolds had already made up his mind. "Pack your tools," he said. "You're done." Just like that. No warning. No chance to explain. Just fired, for helping. Malik didn't argue. He didn't beg. He just stood there, taking it all in, like he'd always known this moment would come. Malik didn't say a word as he turned and walked back toward his workbench. Around him, the sounds of the garage slowly returned, tools clinking, air hissing, someone laughing a little too loud like nothing had just happened. But everything had. He moved like he still had a job to finish, wiping down his tools, putting them back in place, even though he knew he wouldn't be coming back tomorrow. One of the other guys muttered under his breath, something cruel about how helping a biker wasn't worth losing a paycheck. Malik ignored it. His hand stayed steady, but his chest felt heavy. Not from regret, but from knowing he had never really been seen here. 2 years of showing up early, working the hardest, staying the latest, none of it mattered. They still saw him as the easiest one to push out the door. He'd kept quiet for so long, thinking it would earn him respect. But now he saw the truth: silence didn't protect you, it only made it easier for them to pretend you weren't there at all. The sun had started to dip lower in the sky as Malik walked through the city, hands in his pockets, toolbox slung over his shoulder. He didn't have a plan, just needed to move, to clear his head. The streets were loud, full of people rushing somewhere, like always. But inside, everything felt quiet. He passed the corners he and his mom used to wait at for the bus when he was still in school. Past the diner she sometimes brought home leftovers from after a double shift. All of it felt distant now, like another life. He ended up at a bench across from the hospital, not really thinking, just sitting there. Maybe he wanted to make sure the biker had made it. Maybe he just needed to see something that still mattered. Taxis came and went. Nurses stepped out for breaks. Parents held onto their kids a little tighter. Malik just watched, breathing in the cold air, trying to make sense of what had happened. He didn't feel angry. He felt clear. Like something heavy had finally been dropped. Even if he didn't know what came next. Malik was about to head home when he spotted a familiar figure standing near the curb. It was the biker. He hadn't left after all. Malik blinked, surprised. "Thought you'd be at the hospital by now," he said. The man nodded, his face softer now. "I was. She's stable. Got there just in time." He paused, then added, "Because of you." Malik didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to people coming back, especially not to say thank you. "Why'd you come back?" he asked. The biker looked him in the eye. "Because I've been where you are. I've lost things for doing the right thing. And no one should have to pay that kind of price just for being decent." He reached out his hand again. This time, firmer. Malik shook it. The biker gave a name: Ray. Said if Malik ever needed anything, he'd find a way. Then he turned and walked off, swallowed by traffic and flashing lights. Malik stood there for a while, not moving. Something about that moment stayed with him. Not just the thanks, but being seen. Really seen. By the time Malik made it back to his apartment, the sky was dark and the hallways were quiet. He expected to spend the night searching job listings and eating leftovers with his mom. But something unexpected was taped to the front door, a note, written in black marker, his name scrawled at the top. It was short: "Come back to the shop. Now. CEO." Malik stared at it for a few seconds, trying to figure out if it was real. He didn't recognize the handwriting. It wasn't from Reynolds. And no one at the shop ever called him directly, let alone the CEO. A part of him wanted to throw the note away and forget it. But something inside said go. He changed shirts, grabbed his keys, and headed back out, his heart thudding with a mix of nerves and curiosity. When he reached the shop, it looked normal from the outside. But inside, everything felt different. The lights were brighter. The air felt heavier. A group of workers stood near the office doors, whispering. No one laughed. No one cracked jokes. Before Malik could ask what was going on, a voice from inside the conference room called out firm and clear, "Malik Brown, come in." Malik stepped into the room slowly. The air smelled like coffee and tension. At the far end of the table stood Ray, the biker, arms crossed, leather jacket draped over the back of a chair. Beside him was a tall man in his 50s, pressed jeans, sleeves rolled, no tie. Malik recognized him right away. It was Mr. Ellison, the CEO of the whole garage chain. He had only seen him twice before, during quick visits when everything was polished up for show. But now, the man looked serious, tired, but focused. "You've had quite a week, I hear," Ellison said, motioning for Malik to sit. Malik nodded, unsure what to expect. Ellison went on, explaining how Ray had been judged, ignored, and pushed aside by the same people who were supposed to help him. "Except by you," Ray added quietly. "You saw me. No questions, no judgment. Just help." Malik listened, still unsure where this was going. Then Ellison dropped the part that left him speechless. Ray wasn't just a biker. He was Ellison's brother. And when Ellison heard how Malik had been fired for stepping up, he fired the manager that same morning. "This place has no room for that kind of behavior," Ellison said firmly. He opened a folder, slid it across the table. "Your record's clean. Your performance is top tier. We want you back, this time, as lead tech. Higher pay. Your own team. And real respect." Malik sat in silence, barely able to breathe. Ray looked over and gave a small, tired smile. "I don't wear suits, and I don't say things I don't mean," he said. "But what you did mattered. And today, you're getting seen the way you deserve." Malik stepped out of the office into the cold evening air, a folder tucked under his arm, his chest still heavy, but this time, not with stress. It felt different now. For once, like he could breathe. The streets buzzed the same as always, cars honking, people moving fast, lights blinking on in the windows above, but inside, something had shifted. He wasn't walking out as a guy who got fired for doing the right thing. He was walking out as someone who didn't back down, even when it cost him everything. And in the end, that choice opened a door he never expected. As he made his way down the sidewalk, he passed the same streets he used to drag himself down after a long shift, but now they looked new. His phone buzzed. A message from one of the techs: "They gave your old bay to someone else." Malik smiled faintly but didn't reply. That part of his story was done. The garage didn't break him, it helped him see who he really was. He had stood up for someone who didn't look safe to others, and in doing that, he found his own worth. Nobody cheered. Nobody handed him a trophy. But he didn't need that. He walked home slow, steady, quiet. And for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel small. He felt free.